Welcome, Algebra 1. This is section 3-4, solving multi-step inequalities. The essential question is, how is solving multi-step inequalities different from solving equations? So let's begin. This is still the key concept of the last few weeks. We got to isolate the variable. So you have to get the variable by itself. And this still goes on with multi-step inequalities. But just another reminder with inequalities. You have the one huge difference is when you multiply and divide by negative, you flip the inequality sign. So if I'm dividing by -3 on both sides to isolate the x, I must flip the sign, and 12 divided by -3 is -4. Same thing over here. I multiply by -10 on both sides. Multiplying by -10. What happens is the -10s and negatives cancel. You get x is greater than or equal to 5 times -10, -50. So let's try some examples out. I want to simplify this. The goal is to isolate the variable. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 9 on both sides. So when you subtract 9 on both sides, those cancel out. I'm left with 4t is greater than, let's see, that'll be 12. And then my next step, so I subtract 9. Let's write what we're doing. The next step to isolate the t is get rid of the 4. So I divide by 4, because it's 4 times t, so I divide. So I'm going to divide by 4. And those 4's cancel. I'm left with t is greater than 12 divided by 4 is 3. And this is my final answer. Try something else. So I'm going to simplify this one. Isolate the variable a. Well, I want to get rid of this -7 first. So the first thing I'll do is I'll add 7 to both sides. So when you add 7 to both sides, those 7's are going to cancel out. And I'm left with -6a is less than or equal to 17 plus 7 is 24. Your next step to get rid of the -6 being multiplied by the a, I divide by -6 on both sides of the equation. So when you divide by -6, one thing you got to make sure is you have to flip that sign. So these 6 and negatives will cancel. I'm left with a is greater than or equal to 24 divided by -6 is -4. So that's my solution. Try another example. Okay, and this is where we get to a lot of multi-step stuff. Okay, so the first thing, I see this 3 times something in parentheses, this quantity. The first thing I got to do is distribute. Whenever you see this parentheses, distribute first. So my first step is to distribute. So this becomes 3 times t, or 3t, and 3 times 1, or just 3, minus 4t is greater than or equal to -5. Now my next step, I notice I have 2 different t's. I want to isolate the t's. If I have 2 of them, I want to combine these. Since they're both on the same side, 3t and -4t can combine to -1t. So I have 3 minus -1t is greater than or equal to -5. And this is by combining like terms. Because 3t and -4t are like terms. And you can just combine them. So that's my answer for that. Now I got to isolate the t again. Well, let's get rid of this +3. So I don't want to do the same color again. Let's do red. No, I just did red. Green. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. And so you subtracted 3. What happens when you subtract 3 is these 3's will cancel on the left. You're left with -1t, or just I'll say 1t. It's greater than or equal to -8 when it's subtracted. In your last step, you want to get rid of that negative sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by -1 on both sides. So if you divide by -1, the one thing you have to make sure when it's inequalities is you flip the sign. So the -1's cancel, you're left with t. Negative divided by negative is +8. So t is less than or equal to +8. Next one, multi-step. So the first thing when I want to isolate the variable, well, the problem is the variable's on both sides, the inequality. And the way to get rid of that when you have on both sides is I just want to eliminate one of these by subtracting. So I usually go with the smaller one. Since 3n is smaller, I'll subtract 3n on both sides of the inequality. So you subtract 3n, because I can't have n's on both sides of the inequality. When you subtract that 3n goes away. All I'm left with is 8 on the right, and it's 6 minus 3 is going to be 3n minus 1 is greater than 8. So the next step is I got to isolate the n, so I'll get rid of this -1 by doing a +1 on both sides. So if you add 1 to both sides, these 1's cancel, you're left with 3n is greater than 9. And your last step, I don't like having a 3 next to the n, so I divide it by 3 on both sides. And when you divide by 3, since it's positive, you don't flip the sign. It stays the same. You're left with n is greater than 3. All right, next one. So here's some special cases. So sometimes we don't just we come down to like one answer where x is greater than a number. We have special cases. So sometimes the answer is all real numbers, and sometimes there is no solution. One of these two cases happen. Well, all real numbers happens when the variables eliminate and it comes down to something that makes sense or it's true. So when the variables eliminate and it's true. So let's take this case. 4 plus 3x is less than 3x plus 5. I don't like x's on both sides, so I subtract 3x on both sides. What happens is those 3x's eliminate, and I'm just left with 4 is less than 5. 4 is less than 5. This is true. So the answer is all real numbers, and I abbreviate that ARN. That means it doesn't matter what number you plug in for x, it'll always be true, just because those x's just balance each other out. So it doesn't matter what the x's are, it's always going to be true. Now, the other case, no solution. So what happens is the x's go away and it's something that does not make sense. So no values of x will ever work. And this is when you break it down and it's false. So for example, I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. When you do that, these 4x's cancel, so I'm left with 5 is greater than 5. Is 5 greater than 5? No, because it's equal to 5. So this is false. And when it's false, we say no solution. It's because any value you plug in for x, it won't make it true. Doesn't matter what you try. All right, let's try an example. Pause the video. Okay, let's go. So what are the solutions for the inequality? It's 9 plus 5n is less than or equal to 5n minus 1. So the first thing I do, I don't like n's on both sides, so I'll subtract 5n. But what happens when I subtract 5n, they both cancel out. So then you're left with 9 is less than or equal to negative 1. Oh, no variables, so it's those special cases like we just did. Is 9 less than or equal to negative 1? No, because positive 9 is not less than a negative. So we call this false. And that means the answer, when it's false, it is no solution. So you say no solution. All right, next one. Pause the video. Okay, so there's a lot of steps going on here. So the first thing, you don't distribute. There's nothing to do with this. I like combining like terms then next. So notice there's 3 different x's here. There's a lot of different ways I can do this. What I'd like to do is combine x's that are on the same side. So I'm actually going to combine this 7x and this negative 1x. So 7 minus 1 is going to be positive 6x plus 2. And so the first step is I combine those on the right side. So that what I do, I'd combine like terms. That is the best first step you can take. Now the next step, I don't like having x's on both sides, so I will subtract 6x on both sides. Oh boy, what happens here? Those go cancel. I get 8 is greater than or equal to 2. Well, okay, my x is canceled. Is 8 greater than or equal to 2? Yes, so this is true. So then we say x, the solution for x is, all real numbers. And we can abbreviate that as ARN. So that's your solution. All real numbers. Try the next one. Pause the video. All right. This is going to be multi-step inequality. So the first thing, I don't like this. I have this negative 2 times the 4m plus 7. So I will distribute the whole negative 2. It's distributing to both the net 4m and the plus 7. So what I'm left with is 15 less than or equal to 5, and then negative 2 times 4m will be minus 8m. Negative 2 times 7 will be minus 14. So what did I do? I distributed. My second step is, well, I got one variable m, okay, that's good, but I got these 2 numbers on the same side of the inequality, so I'm going to combine them. 5 minus 14 is going to be negative 9. So I got negative 8m minus 9, and we got a 15 here. And we combine like terms. Numbers are like terms. If it's just a number, they are like terms. Second step, to isolate the m, which is still my goal. I want to get rid of this minus 9, so I'll do plus 9 on both sides. If you do that, those cancel. That's with negative 8m, and 15 plus 9 is 24. And we did this by adding. Added 9. And your next step, well, I don't like the negative 8 multiply it by the m, so I divide by negative 8 on both sides. So if you divide by negative 8, since I'm dividing by a negative, the signs must be flipped, so it becomes a greater than or equal to sign. This is negative 3, and this will be m. So it's negative 3 is greater than or equal to m, so that's a solution. If you want to flip that around, I can just rewrite that as m is less than or equal to negative 3. Those are saying the exact same things. They're just kind of mirrored it. Alright, last one. Pause the video. Alright, isolating the x again. It's a decimal, but we can still handle that. I want to get rid of this 30. So I subtract 30 from both sides. When you subtract 30, 50 minus 30 is going to be 20. Is greater than 8/10 x, or 0.8. Now I don't like that coefficient for the x, so I will divide 8/10 on both sides. Divide by 0.8. So when you divide, those 0.8s cancel. I'm left with the x. I'm left with this inequality. What's 20 divided by 8? Well, I'm not going to use a calculator. One thing I know when I'm dividing, 0.8 and divided by 20. Well, I don't like a decimal on the outside, so you move that decimal over. That means this decimal gets moved over. So it's like 8 divided by 200. 8 goes into 20 2 times. And subtract that, you get 4. And drop down the 0, and that goes in 5 times. So my answer is 25. 25 is greater than or equal to x, or greater than x, or you can flip that and say x is less than 25. Either way will work. That's it.